Welcome back to Management Information Systems. We're going to do Module 4, Excel 2016, and we're going to talk about charts. This is the fun part, when you get to create really fun things in Excel. So one of the objectives of this particular module is that you're going to learn how to plan a chart, create a chart, move and resize a chart, change the chart design, change the chart format, format a chart, annotate and draw on a chart, and create a pie chart. So one of the really important things about creating a chart, or any project for that matter, is to be sure that you do the planning steps. So, excuse me, what is the reason that you're creating the chart? What are the data relationships that you want to communicate to the people that you're presenting to? What results do you want to see? What kind of chart would be the most appropriate type to use for the information that you have? What kind of worksheet data do you want the chart to illustrate? And what are the elements of the chart going to be? So let's talk a little bit about what is considered a chart element. So you have a horizontal axis, which is the x-axis, and it's also called the category axis when you're creating a chart. The vertical axis is the y-axis, and it's also considered the value axis in a chart. The way that I keep those straight is horizontal axis is when you're looking at the horizon, you can see that it goes from left to right. So that's how I remember the horizontal axis as the x-axis. And you're going to determine the category when you're creating a chart, and like the y-axis, which goes up and down, that'll be the value. The z-axis is in 3D charts. Area inside the horizontal and vertical axes is called the plot area. So you have a bunch of data and it's plotted on the x and the y axis, or the category and value axis. A legend is something that you put next to a pie chart or a chart of any kind that gives you information about the data that you're presenting. A data point is a certain point or a certain value that's a part of your chart. A data marker is something that visually represents each data point in the chart. A group of related points would be called a data series. So here's a good representation of a bar chart. So you have different elements. You can see that you have the value, and let's go back to make for sure we call this correctly. You have a category, which is the x-axis, and a value, which is going to be the y-axis. So you can see the categories, and then you can see the values. Over here is the legend. Here's at the top we have the name of the chart. This is actually what's called a bar chart. Let's take a look at some more. So there are different kinds of chart types. And one of the things that you need to know about each of them is what they look like and how they can best represent the data that you have. So a column chart compares data using columns. A line chart compares trends over an even time interval. A pie chart compares sizes of pieces of a whole. A bar chart uses horizontal bars that are sometimes referred to as a horizontal bar chart. This is great for values that you're trying to compare values, and that works really, really well when you have that kind of data. area shows how individual volume changes over time in relation to the total volume. A scatter chart compares trends over uneven time or measurement intervals. This is great if you want to see if there's a group of data that is all kind of going to that same spot on the, like if you take a dartboard and you throw a dart at it and it keeps landing really close together, you may have data points that are very close together in a certain spot, and that can indicate things. There's a combination chart with 2 or more different chart types that are a part of it. So if you want to create a chart, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to select the range of data. So you take and you select the data by clicking on it and pulling that data across. And what happens is then it'll appear as a dark area, and I'll show you that in a second. And that's how you choose the range of data. And you can change the size by just going and grabbing those handles, and this would be the chart itself. You can it's just like a picture. You can grab those sizing handles and move them the corners out to make it larger or in to make it smaller. An embedded chart is one that's inserted directly into a current worksheet. So let's say that you have data and you want to take that data, and to the side of it you want to embed a worksheet. You can do that. A chart sheet is a sheet in a workbook that contains only one chart, which is linked directly to that workbook data. So here's a good example of where a range of value is chosen. So what happened is we took this and we highlighted the area that we wanted to put into this chart and created the chart. It looks like what they're going to do is possibly embed this data over here to give a better view image-wise of what the data looks like. Some people are visual, sometimes they're audio, they can be kinesthetic, but sometimes, especially for visual people, it's really nice to have a chart. It really gives you that definition that you need about what's happening with your data. So let's talk about an object. An object is an individual, independent element on a worksheet. So you can move a chart data and it doesn't affect the formula of the data. You can resize a chart by dragging its sizing handles. You can move a chart by dragging the chart itself. So these are things that are common among the Microsoft applications. That's not something new. But keep in mind that an object is an independent element. Okay. So here's an example of a resized chart, and what it's doing is it's taking this information right here, the highlighted information, and we're creating that chart down at the bottom. So if you would grab this handle, you could make it larger, you could make it smaller, you could take and grab this, and when you get that moving sign, you can move it around. But this is an example about how you would go about moving or resizing a chart. Okay. Oops, I want to go back. Changing a chart design. So you can do that actually and relatively quickly. If you change the data values in a worksheet, automatically it will update the chart. The Chart Tools tab can be used to make specific changes in a chart, but really what you want to be doing is making the changes in the worksheet itself. If you want to make changes in the chart tool design, you can change the chart type, and this is without changing the specific data or the data values. You can modify the range and configuration of the chart. You can change the layout of the objects, you can choose different color schemes, and you can move the location of the chart. So those are the kinds of things you can do with the chart design. Again, when you change the data values, you would do that in the worksheet and it would automatically change it in the chart itself. Okay. So here's the chart type dialog box. This is where you would choose which kind of chart you're wanting to make with the data you've chosen. Oops, went too far. Let me go back. So the chart elements button makes it easy to add, remove, or modify the chart objects. You can do that by using the options on the shortcut menu. You can add text to a chart, you can modify labels, change the display of the axis, and we kind of looked at that a little bit. These are all called chart elements. You might, for example, the text to of the chart might be the name. You can modify the labels. Instead of saying square inches, you could say feet, or you can do all kinds of things like that. And you can change the display of the axis. Okay, so here's a look at an enhanced chart, and what has been done is, as you can see, the range starts at 0, then goes to 1,000, then goes to 2,000, then goes to 3,000. And you can change these values. Maybe you want to have it, oops, let me go back. Maybe you want to have it go from 0 then to 500, and then to 1,000, and then to 1,500. That would be an example of changes that you could make to the chart. And this is an example of an enhanced chart. The Chart Tool Formats tab, very similar to the other applications like Word and PowerPoint. You can change the colors in a specific data series, and you can apply styles and style shapes. Here's an example of using some of those tools. Again, Microsoft really has tried hard to have those tools move from one application to another so that you understand them and can use them in each of the applications equally. Let's talk about annotating or drawing on a chart. So you can do text annotation. It's a label that you can add to a chart to further describe it. So what you're doing is you're creating a text box or a little shape where you can actually put descriptive information or text annotation into the chart. Text annotation and arrow shapes are added to the chart. So here, what has happened is this is something that they feel is very important to the data that's on the chart. So they have put up here, great improvement, that's an annotation, and they've also drawn an arrow from one point to another so that it represents something that they want the people that are viewing the chart to see. So let's talk about a pie chart. You can create multiple charts based on the same worksheet. Different chart types are better for emphasizing different parts of the data. We kind of talked about that. A pie chart emphasizes a data point by exploding or pulling that slice away from the pie chart. So again, when you set up a chart, you need to really think about what you're going to be using it for so that it can be an effective tool. Here's an example of creating a bar chart down at the bottom and then a pie chart over here. And they're actually using a combination of the two so that you can see certain data. And here's where this data pops out. They're pulling that piece of pie out and saying, you know, this is important. I want you to take a look at it. Thank you, and I will see you for Module 5.